You know the battle we go through life. We ask for a chance is fair. Chance to equal our stripes. Chance to do it there. We should win. Let it be by the code. Faith in the outer hell high. We should lose. Stand by the road. Cheers, the winners go by. Day by day. We get better and better. We can't beat. Won't beat.
Back, everybody.
Welcome back.
Little Husker Tunnel walk to get y'all fired up. Welcome back to the show. I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
And we are two average guys here to break down our second to last final breakdown of the college football playoffs. Also talk about Nebraska. Not so much the ass whooping that we just took against Iowa, but
I don't even talk about that.
That's in the past. The 4-8 season's in the past, but talk about the future. What we should be excited about this upcoming year. Projected to be excited about this upcoming year. Many of you know what I'm talking about. So, as it states in in our title here is Let's Get Frosty. So we'll have a little discussion about Scott Frost, kind of our thoughts, and seen a lot of things in the media lately about coaches in general. So talk a little bit about the coaching carousel and what's going on out there, and see what's going on. So, and we'll give our thoughts too on some of those coaching decisions that have been made and what the upcoming decisions might be.
Well, some of them weren't made really
some of them
by
maybe
the
weren't
school.
made. Yeah, so
necessarily.
And we'll get to that. So let's talk first about our top four. So that got revealed not too long ago. Clemson came in at number one. What are your thoughts on Clemson being number one?
I thought they would be. The committee has kind of shown that they're taking that loss to Syracuse as their quarterback was out. The quarterback got hurt.
Even though he didn't get hurt till what, third quarter? I think he got hurt in the third quarter.
It might have been around the end of the first half, something like that. But not surprising, I guess, would be my answer to you. They beat Auburn. I know it was early in the season, but they won at Auburn, and Auburn now is 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Excuse me, they've knocked off the number one team, which was Georgia, and then Alabama. And in kind of convincing fashion in both games. So
I'm not surprised, but I will say this: defending national champ is getting a lot of recognition.
That's another thing I would say.
They are saying that they had one of the top resumes in the country, playing top 40 teams. I don't care about the top 40. Let's look at the top 25 or even top 30, and I guarantee you they're not in the top 10 as far as their schedule.
Not only that, but just take a look at the last couple of weeks. I mean, they beat up South Carolina, but
in Citadel.
Okay, and I'm not. I know you have it written down somewhere. I'm not entirely sure who they had played before that.
FSU, who's awful.
Florida State, yeah.
I mean, if you look at their wins,
State and Georgia Tech, and they beat Virginia Tech early on, but
yeah. But I don't know. You look at, they have two opponents currently that are ranked in the top 25. Virginia Tech and Auburn. The only two teams ranked in the top 25. And so we'll go over, I mentioned some top four, what my top four was, and I'll go over kind of how I got there. And I told Jimmy it's really confusing, so try to hang with me when I do.
It's like 3 pages worth if you guys want us to post pictures.
It's a lot. I took a lot of notes. Just going through what I believe. If you're going to look at the top 4 teams and the best teams, you can look at the best teams now, but you also have to look at the bigger picture on who have they played, who have they beat, who they lose to, when they lose, and their opponents' records. I mean, when you got 3 teams that won, 2 of them are 1-11 on the season and one's 0-12. I mean, does that really pad your stats? I mean, to me, that shouldn't really help you at all, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. So, Clemson number 1, Auburn number 2. We just kind of went over a little bit. Not too much of surprise there.
Not necessarily. I mean, it kind of is when you think about it, because there's never been a 2-loss team that's made the playoff. And now you've got one at number 2. That's probably the highest a 2-loss team's ever been.
Yeah,
in playoff rankings.
And you look at the reason why. So they did play, I believe, 7 opponents. They have 7 opponents above 500 record at the end of the season, and they have five opponents that are currently ranked in the top 25.
So I don't have a problem with them being there.
So strength of schedule, you look at strength of schedule, I mean, theirs, to me, it was tougher than Clemson. Yes, they lost to Clemson, but it's 14-6, week 2 of the season. They did lose to LSU, which doesn't bode well for them, but LSU also had a very strong second half of the season.
And they're ranked 16
and they're ranked in the top 20. So you look at that, and then they did beat the number 1 team, in week 10 and then week 12 to end the season. So you have to really take those into account when you put them at number 2. I thought they might be number 1, to be honest. You look at their whole body of work. I see Jarrett Stidham as one of the best quarterbacks in the country when it comes down to it. Obviously, you're going to put him up against Mayfield and some of these other guys that are being thrown out there, but I definitely think he's better than J.T. Barrett. He's better than Jalen Hurts. He's better than all these other big names that are being thrown out there. And so we'll see he's not even a Heisman favorite, but he's had a hell of a good season. And I've mentioned him more than once on the show on how much I think he is a solid player.
So there's no way they could the committee was going to put Auburn ahead of Clemson when Clemson beat them, and Auburn has a second loss.
I think the only reason why they're not ahead of Clemson is because Clemson beat them. Because I do think they are the best team right now. If you're looking at the best 4 right now, they're number 1. And then
that's probably true.
At number 3, we had OU. So I don't think anyone's shocked by that or surprised. OU's number 3. Once again, very, very weak schedule. When you look at the Big 12 as a whole, they're the team that has two teams that were 1-11 in Kansas and then also in Baylor, and they actually almost lost to Baylor.
Actually, they did. That's right.
And they almost lost to Texas, who's 6-6. And then UTEP was 0-12 on the season. So their staple win was Ohio State. And TCU, those are the 2 big wins. Oklahoma State, you can say it was a big win, but Oklahoma State, 3 losses. They kind of struggled this year.
Down the stretch.
Down the stretch, they definitely did. Cornhusker Nation, what's going on? Glad you joined the show and watching in. Just going through our the top 4 right now, and really the top 10 to look at who has a chance to get in the playoff, and then we're going to get a little frosty here. It's a little chilly in the basement anyways. But
it is. I got the jacket on.
Yeah, I won't see any frost on the screen anytime soon. But OU's at number 3, then at number 4. Number 4 came in Wisconsin, so finally Wisconsin getting a little respect, being put up in the top 4. I think they deserve it. I've been in some heated discussions, and what really got me into doing this research on how I got to my top 4 was a heated discussion with my buddy Pooty.
Okay.
Ryan,
what did he say?
He thinks that their strength of schedule, this and that, isn't strong enough to be in the top 4. He thinks they'll get wiped by anybody in the top 4. We saw it happen with Iowa. He's comparing them to Iowa 2 years ago, who went into, I think, the Rose Bowl and just got annihilated by Stanford, right?
The last 2 years, the Big Ten team that's made it in has gotten shut out. Yep. Michigan State did the year we beat them, and then Ohio State did last year,
and Iowa did.
And Iowa wasn't in the playoffs, but they were in the 2 years ago. They were in the Rose Bowl, and Stanford and McCaffrey wiped them out.
Yeah,
so I don't know. They play the same way every week. We were talking about it. They just it might be close early. They wear you down.
They haven't had.
They play great defense. They give up 12 points a game. They average 12 points a game, giving up.
I think that's the biggest thing is their defense is stout. Their running game is stout. They have a good offensive line.
If they would have played Michigan State, if they would have played Ohio State this year, they would have beat them.
Yeah, and I listened to.
Or did they play Michigan State? They didn't play Michigan. Or no, they played Michigan. They didn't play Michigan State.
Yes, they beat Michigan. Sorry. They didn't play Michigan State. Yes, they may have had a weak schedule.
They had a weak non-conference schedule, too.
Conference and non-conference, to be honest. BYU, you can't help. I mean, BYU's had some good years. So you schedule a team like BYU, you expect them to actually be pretty darn good. So you can't really help that because technically they are better on a normal year, but they had a really bad year this year going 3-9.
And Florida Atlantic was 9-3. I mean,
Florida Atlantic and Lane Kiffin actually had a good year somehow as a head coach. He inherited some good players, I think, but. Northwestern went 9-3. That was their best win. But then you got Maryland, you got Illinois, you got Indiana, Iowa 7-5, Michigan 8-4. So Michigan and Northwestern were their 2 top wins. So yes, you can look at their schedule. They have one opponent who's currently ranked in Northwestern. You can look at how many opponents are above 500. You know, they only have 5 opponents above 500. But I will tell you, if you've watched Wisconsin this year, you can say all you want about their lack of schedule, but they have been the most consistent team across the board. They haven't struggled to beat a team once the entire year. They have looked good on the ground every game. Taylor should win the Heisman, but he's probably not going to over Baker Mayfield. I think he is not only the best running back in the country right now, but he's only a freshman. I mean, look out. That's all I have to say about him.
Depending on how long he stays.
And Hornibrook, who was a mediocre quarterback the last couple of years, he's actually come through pretty good this year. And he's proved that he can throw the ball downfield, and that is going to be a difference maker in beating Ohio State. Because Brady Quinn, I listened to Brady Quinn today, and I'm not a Notre Dame fan.
Why did you do that?
I was watching something on Scott Frost, and it flipped over to Brady Quinn talking about the playoff and talking about Wisconsin. And he said, I will bet you anything that Wisconsin will beat Ohio State. Why? They are a better team, is what he said. He also said that their defense is better. Their defense is going to rush J.T. Barrett. J.T. Barrett's like 54% on the year. So he hasn't had a stout year as far as throwing the ball. And he hurt his knee, whether or not it was the cameraman or not, which Urban Meyer, I think you're so full of shit. It was a cameraman. Okay, he ran for
pretty weird.
Up to that point, he had like 5 or 6 rushes for 67 yards, and a rushing TD for 21 yards. He didn't look hurt until he got tackled. Now Urban Meyer's saying a cameraman at the field hurt him, and they're doing a full on investigation to see what happened. Dude, give me a break. Your quarterback got hurt on the tackle. Don't try to make it something that is not. I just don't know why he's trying to cover. I don't know why he's trying to cover up a tackle. It wasn't a dirty tackle. Like, nothing happened in the game that would make you think that he was hurt except for that tackle. I don't think he got hurt in pregame. I think Urban Meyer is just a douche. Yeah. So, yeah, very good point. So, J.T. Barrett, once again, 54%. He gave up 5 picks to Iowa, and they also gave up 55 points. And they only scored 24. And they scored, I think, at the last TD in the last couple minutes of the game.
Probably.
So, they lost by 31 points. And to me, I know we're kind of going off topic here with the Big Ten and Wisconsin, but Wisconsin playing Ohio State, I think they're better than Iowa. They're much better than Iowa. Wisconsin is, and I just don't. And they
gave up 66 yards.
Yeah, they gave
no offensive points.
So I think you look at how those games played out. You have Hornibrook who can throw on those cornerbacks. Those cornerbacks are very, very, very weak for Ohio State. Their defense up front is not that bad. But you look at the defense of Wisconsin, better. You look at the offense of Wisconsin, to me, better. Better run game, better pass game. I think what they need to do is contain J.T. Barrett, and they're going to win the game. And if J.T. Barrett's not 100%, they're definitely not going to win the game.
That backup that came in wasn't bad, though.
Michigan's defense gave up in the second half.
Yeah, I don't know. But they were hanging with them, too. Yeah.
So back on schedule. So Wisconsin, number 4. Number 5, we had Alabama. Not really much of a surprise there. Number 6, Georgia. And we'll get to Alabama's loss to Auburn here in a second. Number 6, Georgia. Number 7 was Miami. Number 8, Ohio State. Now, number 9, Penn State. We don't need to worry about them at all. We need to look at number 10 USC. And number 11, USC and TCU, because these are 2 teams, both 2 losses, but
there's no way.
But you have to look at the fact that if USC wins, a 10-2 Pac-12 champ
is out.
A TCU who beats OU, who is ranked number 3,
has a better chance.
But we'll look at some scenarios in a little bit. But I've discounted the Pac-12 for weeks now, and I still want to discount them.
Oklahoma would be in right now too if the Big 12 didn't decide that they were going to do a Big 12 championship game.
Well,
anyway.
Maybe. Depending on how these other games folded out, they might get knocked out without a championship.
I guess that's true.
But you still have to look at USC because you know the committee loves USC. They love Sam Darnold. And I don't know why they're talking about him going pro. He's a sophomore. He's got at least one more year that he should stay. I don't think he's ready for the pro. Just my 2 cents.
Well, he didn't have as good of a year this year as he did last year.
His draft stock definitely dropped, and there's something going around about would he not go to the draft just because the Browns were the number 1 pick. I don't even think he's a number 1 pick. I think there's better quarterbacks out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's our top 10 with Penn State at number 9, who doesn't have a chance. The top 11. I'll go into really quick how I came up with my top 4. So I had Auburn at number 1, Georgia at number 2, Clemson came in at number 3, and then Wisconsin number 4. So I wasn't too far off. I still had 3 of the top 4. And the way I got to that is I showed Jimmy before is I had 3 pages of notes here. I mean it's loaded. I mean page to page. I mean I did some research on records. I looked at everything I possibly could to go through who really has the toughest schedule out of these teams that potentially will make the playoff. Notre Dame wasn't there, but then Notre Dame fumbled against Stanford and
yeah,
really shocked, I guess.
Yeah, I was a little shocked, but with Alabama losing, and that kind of shook things up, and Miami had lost the day before.
Yeah, Notre Dame still had a shot.
I think they probably did
an outside shot, but
yeah, I mean, they come down to they're sitting idle just like Alabama is this week.
Yep,
and as a
2-loss
non-conference champion,
but
you have Alabama that's a 1-loss. They would have been in.
But their strength of schedule was like 4th.
Right.
Because it's all non-conference. They don't have conference. So, but I looked at the top 10 teams, at least what was ranked previous to this week. Looked at the top 10, which includes all of the teams right now. Take out Notre Dame now. Take out Penn State. I looked at who have they played on their schedule that's currently ranked in the top 25. Who have they played that has a record above 500? I looked at the other team's record. Where they're ranked, I don't care where they're ranked when they beat them. To me, that doesn't matter because at the end of the season, that's what matters more to me. If I'm looking at it from the best teams in the country, I don't care if you beat NC State when they were ranked number 12, number 15, whatever. I think they're 16 when
then
Clemson
Alabama beat Florida State when they were number 3, but Florida State was trash.
But Florida State was 5 and 6, and they probably shouldn't even be in the top 40. So you have to look to me at the end of the season, not hey I beat a team when they're number 3. That to me that doesn't matter. So, ranked opponents, I mean, Bama had 3.
So, did you factor in when they lost?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So you got to look at when they lost, too. So, if they have a loss, which Wisconsin is the one that doesn't, when did they lose? Was it early in the season? Was it late in the season? Was it middle of the season? So, a team like Miami losing the last game of the season against Pitt,
who
has a 5-7 record with that win, that's a bad loss. And they got whooped up and down that field the entire game. Rozier at one point was 12 of 30.
And he got pulled.
And he got pulled for a series. So I looked at that, and to me, that's what makes me think Miami, do you really have a shot? Now, yes, Ohio State, midway through the season, losing to Iowa, but you lost to Iowa, you gave it 55 points. You got destroyed by Iowa. It wasn't close. So I took that into account.
How many weeks ago was that now?
So Ohio State lost to...
It was right here. So it was
Iowa.
like 4 weeks
Iowa
ago.
was week 9.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, week 9, it was their 9th game. So I looked at when they lost, how bad they lost, who they lost to, what their record is, and then I took into account the win-loss record, so the above 500 by their opponents, and if they had big wins, so someone like Auburn who won, like I said, they had 2 in 3 weeks, they beat the number 1 team twice, and those 2 teams are both still in the top 7 now. That's why I had them at number 1. Georgia at number 2 because Georgia played.
Both those teams are still in the top 6.
Georgia played 7 teams that are still above 500, but their biggest win was Notre Dame. At that point, it was 9-2 before they lost to Stanford. Still a good win though, and their one loss was to a top 10 team, and now the number 2 team in the country. So I took that into account.
But they did kind of get blown out.
They did. So I took that into account, but I still see them as a top 4 team. And Clemson, of course, I don't think their strength of schedule is anything to bat an eye at. They lost to Syracuse, which the committee, once again, is going to say, yeah, they didn't have the quarterback the whole game. Sure, valid point, but it's next man up mentality for all these teams.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's defense is pretty hurt. They're hurting.
Next man up.
And
so, in Wisconsin, yes, their schedule is not that strong. They have 5 opponents above 500, and their biggest win is Northwestern, who's in the top 20, but it's Northwestern. Or in the top 25.
They're
21. So, I mean, you got to look at that. But, once again, they are undefeated. I don't care what conference you play in. In a Power 5, if you're undefeated, that's impressive. I don't care if if your non-conference kind of sucked. I don't care because it's still hard to go undefeated. You got 12 games to play. It's not easy to win 12 games in a season and be consistent throughout the entire year. They've been lucky enough to not have a ton of injuries. Right. That's helped them too.
Right.
So that's why I had them still in the top 4. And then after that, I had Bama. I knew they'd keep Bama at 5. And then I did have
just knocking on the door.
Yeah, and I had OU after that because they don't have defense. They did give up 55 points to OSU, but they scored 62-52. Mm-hmm. So they gave up 52 points, but yeah, they scored 62. Congratulations, you put up. Yeah, that's a NCAA. That's me and you playing NCAA football online. So to me, your defense is still. I think you're going to get beat by any team who has a good offense, which is anybody that's going to be in the playoff.
Yeah, I mean, whoever has a good defense, which those teams do.
And a good defense.
Got a great defense.
You put pressure on Baker Mayfield. If you can spy him and contain him, he's going to make mistakes just like a JT Barrett will. And any quarterback really, you put pressure on him, it makes it that much harder. Jalen Hurts, same thing. So that's why I put them there. Then I did have Ohio State and Miami in that order. So really, it's going to be interesting to see what happens this weekend because we have a lot of scenarios that can play out. But yeah, so if you guys ever want to see my notes, I was like literally 3 pages and actually had a 4th page with scenarios. This is what I do in my free
I didn't
time.
look at your scenarios page.
I don't have life. And I didn't really finish the scenarios. So let's talk about the Big Ten Championship.
There's like 500 scenarios.
I didn't go quite that deep. I wasn't quite that bored. So if Wisconsin wins, they're in. No doubt.
Right.
There's no way you can keep them out. We'll go just the wins first. So if Clemson wins, they're in. They're already in the top 4. If OU wins, they're in. If Georgia wins, they're in. So let's go the opposite of what I want. Georgia actually, I want Auburn to win. Yeah. But if Miami wins, if Ohio State wins, to me, all that does is knock Wisconsin out and put Alabama in.
Right.
And you could have 2 SEC teams in there, an SEC champ and Alabama. Or is Ohio State in? That's the big controversy.
And that's not what ESPN wants. They want both of them in.
But for the first time, watching the selection show today, I was telling you this, watching that, the first time I have heard them even mention that Iowa loss being something that could hurt them. They haven't mentioned that up to this point. Now all of a sudden, they did give up 55 points to Iowa, who 2 of the last 3 weeks, lost 2 of the last 3 games, and then of course they whipped up on Nebraska, who were 4-8, so that doesn't matter. So I think that you have to look at how bad you lost, and it was in week 9. Once again, this is not early in the season when you lose to Iowa. You got destroyed by Iowa. So Jason says Wisconsin's getting the same treatment Iowa had 2 years ago. Same situation. If they win, they're in. Exactly. And,
it was.
Yeah, and that was the same situation with Iowa.
Because they were 4.
Yeah, so...
And they were playing Michigan State, who was 5.
Yeah, and so...
Michigan State won, and they put them in.
But they're treating them the same as far as...
For sure.
Finally getting them up to where they should be at. But it took them forever to get Wisconsin there. And it's only because Alabama lost. That's the only reason why they're there.
Yeah.
So if Ohio State wins, to me...
Well, yes and no.
Well,
Miami lost too.
Yeah. So
they still would have been in there because Alabama would have been at 1, Clemson 2, Oklahoma 3.
Yeah. So anyway, but they could have put Georgia in at 4. Either way, so if Ohio State wins, to me, I don't think they're in. I can't fathom them putting a 2-loss Ohio State team who got destroyed by Iowa.
Right. And they got destroyed by Oklahoma as well.
Yeah. And so at home.
At home. So.
Destroyed on the road,
and I know,
destroyed by home.
Again, it's when you lose. If they wouldn't have lost a second time and they just had that Oklahoma loss, it would have been forgiven because it was the first game of the year.
Yeah. So that's my biggest thing is it was that Iowa loss in Week 9 should have an impact on Ohio State, even having a shot. And I've said it all along. Well, if you guys want to challenge that, I will buy you a case of beer if Ohio State gets in.
Well, I've already got that on the line.
Yeah, and I tagged in on that. But even then, if Wisconsin loses,
as much as I would like to see as much controversy as possible, I do not want Ohio State anywhere near this. Wisconsin.
I'd rather them. And I think Wisconsin's a better team. I really do. I think they have a better chance of winning that game. So Ohio State getting in, like I said, I think there's a 0% chance that they're in. because there's a lot of other factors that go into that, not just the Big Ten championship. So you have the Big Ten championship. I want Wisconsin. You want Wisconsin. That's no surprise there.
Well, and quick note, if they do win, I do believe that just basically opens it up for Alabama to get back in.
Potentially.
Because they only have one loss. And, I mean, Ohio State would be a Big Ten champ beating an undefeated team. It would be interesting.
It would be really interesting. So, ACC. So, Clemson wins, obviously, they're in. Miami wins. They lost to Pitt. Technically week 13, but their last game of the year, they lose to Pitt.
They went from 2-7, which was a pretty significant drop. Not surprising.
Not surprising at all. Really, it wasn't. And that's where...
Not when you got these other teams right behind them.
And it's not like Pitt hasn't done this before. They've done it more than
last
once.
year. They beat Clemson last year.
They beat Clemson and they beat Penn State last year, didn't they? So they beat 2 teams last year. So this is nothing new for Narduzzi at all. And he even said at halftime, he's what's going to be special about the second half. And he said, well, we did it against Virginia Tech. We did it against the national champs last year. He goes, we're going to do it again today. 100% confidence with that coach going into that second half. And I loved it. I'm like, wow, that's extreme confidence, but hell yeah, like, bring it on.
That's cool.
So Clemson wins, obviously they're in. Miami wins. That's the big question because that, I think, opens the door for Alabama more than any other possible outcome.
And they, on that selection show, they really seem to think that aside from Miami winning like 58-0, that if Miami wins, that Clemson could still be in. Yeah, and I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't agree with that either. It would be Clemson's second
It would also
loss.
just depend on what else happens, but just off the top of my head, thinking about who else would win, I don't see that.
Yeah, I would put in a 2-loss TCU before I'd keep Clemson in there after losing in a championship game if TCU is the Big 12 champ. I think you got to put a champion in there rather than a runner-up. And especially if you lose to Miami, how do you put Clemson in there over the team you lost to? I mean, that
made it sound like
but then
that both of them would be in.
Then who gets knocked out? That's the thing.
Yeah,
you got to knock 2 teams out, so you're screwing people over, and I just don't think you could possibly do that.
I think if Miami wins, they would be in over Clemson. They only have 1 loss. And Clemson would have 2, and they beat them, and they're conference champ.
But I think Miami wouldn't be in because I think Alabama would be in. I think they would move in. They would move in Alabama.
They would move in Alabama over Miami when Miami's one loss conference champ?
I think so. I think they would because, once again, they love Alabama. And Alabama's 1 loss is now to the number 2 team, potential SEC champ.
Alabama and Clemson have been the last 2 years, like, get them out. We want somebody else.
Hey, I don't disagree. I'm just saying that I think they would put Alabama in because of the fact that they've kept them so high all year and they haven't really had that great of a year and they have the worst. They have the worst and weakest schedule and one of the weakest conferences. Mississippi State is ranked in the top 25. They have 4 losses. They shouldn't be up there. Right. Who else got punched? Oh, NC State punched their ticket in the top 25. That helps Clemson. I mean, and that's where the ranked opponents, it changed a little bit after the new top 25 came out. But really, I just don't see them not putting in Alabama if Miami wins. I think Alabama's going to get in. So they should make Alabama and Ohio State play each other in the ESPN Bowl. Oh my God,
that is fantastic, Jason. I couldn't have said that any better.
That's gold.
They should have them play each other in a
non-conference.
In a non-playoff game in one of the New Year's Six bowls.
Yeah. I mean, if people think that everyone thinks that Ohio State and Alabama are 2 of the top teams in the country, even with them having losses now. Yeah, put them in a New Year's Six bowl. Let's see it. But I mean, that is probably one of the best comments, and I just gotta laugh at that because put them in the ESPN bowl. That's fantastic, Jason. Thank you so much. Bravo.
That's hilarious.
Let's move on to the Big 12. So many things happen with the ACC, but like I said, I think the biggest opportunity for Alabama to get in is if Miami beats Clemson. So let's look at Oklahoma. They win, they're in, of course.
Obviously.
If TCU beats Oklahoma, it is hard to beat a team twice in a year no matter what. Gary Patterson, although I don't like the guy, I think he's just kind of wacky and weird. Can't keep his pants up on the sideline, so I think it's kind of funny watching him. He licks his lips a lot. He's just a goofy guy. Hell of a good coach, though. You can't deny what he's done at TCU over the last 10 years, however long he's been there. But you look at that, you look at what he's done there, and you look at trying to beat a team twice and a Gary Patterson team twice, that defense is better than what they played first time around. They're going to pay very close attention to that film and what they did in that first game against OU, because they stopped them about a quarter and a half. The last quarter and a half of the game, they played much better against OU, but they started off really bad. So
I really want to see TCU win this game because, for one, Oklahoma would be left out, but also it would be interesting to see how things would be shifted around after that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know that TCU does make it in, but they could.
That'd be huge.
That'd be a huge jump.
The only time a jump that far has happened is when Ohio State jumped up.
Yeah, but they were like 6.
No, I think they were 8 or 9.
I think they were 6. We'll look it up, but I think they were 6.
Someone look that up for us if you're watching.
Or no, actually, I'm not sure. I know
they were deeper.
I think TCU was 3 and dropped to 6. We'll have to
look, or someone else look it up and tell us. But I'm pretty sure Ohio State was 8 or 9 when they jumped up. But anyways, because they were saying that'd be the biggest jump since Ohio State got in.
Okay.
But either way, so if TCU wins, awesome, because one of my least favorite players doesn't get to play in the playoff, and Baker Mayfield.
I think you're right. I think they were 8. Anyway.
But so that opens the door for an Alabama to get in, because like you said, I'd be shocked if they moved TCU up from number 11 and jumped them into a number 4 spot in the playoff. I'd be shocked. I don't think TCU has. They lost to Iowa State and they lost to OU. So OU also lost to Iowa State. So Iowa State had a good year. Campbell really turned that team around this year, and they've had one of the best years they've had in a while. But I don't foresee that happening. So that opens the door for Alabama. Potentially, if Miami wins, it also opens the door for Miami to get in. If that happens. So
Jason said Dr. Pepper fears Nick Saban, and then he said he's got to go. So
all right, stay thirsty.
We'll see.
We always stay thirsty, but that's because we're drinking beer. So
we'll talk to you soon.
Another thing I put in here: TCU wins, that opens the door for Bama, or does it open the door for a 2-loss USC team if they win and if they beat Stanford in the Pac-12 championship?
I just don't.
Does it?
I just don't think so. That'd be great.
But you have to look at that scenario, because there are other things that can happen that can open up for a couple 2-loss teams to get in. It'd be shocking, of course, if that were to happen.
The thing is Alabama's sitting at 5. They're obviously in. There would have to be like 3 different teams lose. But then a lot of them are playing teams that are still ahead of USC, so they'd be in ahead of them.
It would be wild, but once again, the love for USC. They started off number 5, I think, this year. They're 4 or 5. They're in the top 5 this year to start the beginning of the season. They actually had a pretty decent season last year, but Sam Darnold has a lot of weight on his shoulders, which is why they put them up so high.
I guess you can't really ever call anything, because as we saw a couple years ago, and granted Ohio State beat Wisconsin 58-0 or whatever, and jumped in there. I mean, it's a committee. It's a room of people that can do whatever they want.
So we'll touch on the committee. I'm going to touch on the committee in a second, but let's go back to that 58-0 win. Talk about revenge for Wisconsin.
Oh yeah,
this is not just
think about that.
But let's get in for revenge of what happened when we lost 58-0 to them and we got ousted. I mean, let's look at that factor, because that's going to play a big factor, I think, for Wisconsin to not let that happen again. Now,
there's probably some guys on the team that are still on the team.
Oh yeah,
from that season.
The committee.
So that was 3 years ago. There could be some redshirt or some freshmen that.
Yeah. So we talk about the committee. It is humans. It is not a computer system. They have a lot of things they probably put in as far as strength of schedule. Which once again, they also do the eye test, which
was never a thing with the BCS.
No, it never was. And now you also have to look at they said conference champ weighs very heavy on their decisions, but we've seen the last couple of years maybe it doesn't so much.
Well, last year it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State won the Big Ten, and they had beaten Ohio State, and Ohio State still got in.
So we've seen them kind of flip their resumes on what they're looking at to get these teams in the playoffs. So really, it's really
every year they've kind of done something different though. So you never know what they're going to
do. So they surprise us. So here's my deal with ESPN's been doing a lot on showing a computer system and percentages on chances of getting in.
Football percentage index.
If you watch that, just wipe that out of your mind because that doesn't mean anything to the committee. That's not how they pick their teams. They're not looking at if this person wins. What is it? They're not looking at a percentage. They're looking at the eye test. They're looking at the conference champs. And sometimes we don't know what they're looking at, but we know they're looking at those two things. They're looking at records, strength of schedule, and that computer system. I mean, we're not going back to the BCS era. At that point,
it's
that's essentially what they're trying to do.
It would be kind of interesting to see what that BCS, what the rankings would look like in that.
So it's interesting.
Because wouldn't Wisconsin be number one?
They would be, because they're undefeated. So Wisconsin would be number one.
I would say at this point right now, because what happened with that was if you lost late, it hurt you. If you lost early, it was okay. So Clemson would probably, and Oklahoma would probably be, those teams would be
Oklahoma, 2 Georgia would all be up there. So, I mean, we're not going back to computer systems, so the fact that they pull out this computer and start doing percentages, if this team wins, this increases Ohio State's percentage to 98%, get the hell out of here. No.
It was like 78%.
Yeah, they jumped it up big time. It went from like 5% to 78%. I'm like, get out of here. Like, no, they're not working off computer. They're going to weigh very heavy on that Iowa loss, I think, and I think they should. So, a little off topic there. SEC. So, if Georgia wins, to me, they're in.
I would agree. They would jump Alabama.
Now, here is
and Auburn would drop out.
Here's a tough one. If Auburn wins, we have the same situation as we had with Ohio State jumping in over Penn State, who was the Big Ten champ, and Ohio State got in over them. We have the same situation that could happen if Auburn wins the SEC. Will they put Alabama in over them, even though they lost to Auburn?
Not now that Auburn's ranked number 2.
And I don't think now...
When you wrote that, they were still ranked number 6.
And Auburn, they didn't just win. They controlled that game. I mean, if you watch... I watched almost the entire game. I missed a little bit. I go pick up my kid. Missed a little bit.
Well, they dominated the Georgia game, too.
Yeah, they dominated the line of scrimmage. They ran the ball. They threw the ball. They played defense better. I mean, they won that game outright. The score, it was not they didn't beat them up, but they controlled that game. And even Saban afterwards, I think, with all these guys, what they've accomplished, they deserve to get in. Well, you got to pay your dues, man. You got to win. And you didn't beat a 2-loss Auburn team, and you had every opportunity to, but they kept stopping you.
Yep.
Your quarterback, you're injured. Your quarterback, he's a run-first quarterback.
Yep.
And you're not going to win with a run-first quarterback 99% of the time unless you're Deshaun Watson or an Eric Crouch or something like that. It's just not going to happen. So we'll see. But to me, I just don't know how you don't put Auburn in if they're an SEC champ. Yes, a 2-loss, first time ever 2-loss team would be in the playoff.
That's fine.
But if you look at their body of work, the teams that they've played that are above 500, the ranked opponents, they still have 5 ranked opponents right now in the top 25, not the top 40. They are by far the best team in the country right now. And if they win the SEC championship, they are the best team in the country still.
Right. Now, the only thing I wouldn't say that if they win that they would put Alabama ahead of them, especially now that Auburn's number 2. If you're number 2 and you win your conference championship, you're not going anywhere. Especially the SEC. Now, will Alabama still, if Auburn wins, will Alabama still find a way to get in?
I think they
think they probably will, just based on a couple of these other games.
And to be honest, I think they have 3 chances.
They do.
If TCU wins, if Miami wins, if Ohio State wins, if any of those 3 teams win, and Auburn wins, Alabama's getting in. It doesn't matter which one. You could have Auburn win, you could have Clemson win, and you could have Wisconsin win. If TCU wins, Alabama's in. You could have Miami win, all the other teams win, Auburn, Clemson, and Wisconsin, and guess what? Alabama's going to get in over Miami. They're going to get in over Ohio State. I don't think they're not going to put Alabama in, not because I want them to be in. I don't think they're a top 5 team, but I think that's what the committee's going to do.
Georgia could win and Alabama could still find a way to get in there. They could still have both of them in there.
Well, yeah. So, Georgia or Auburn, whoever wins the SEC, there's still a good chance that Alabama gets in.
Could be the first time we have 2 lost teams. Could be the first time we have 2 teams from the same conference.
Exactly, and that can happen.
Unless
they choose to not want it to happen. But
I kind of hope it doesn't, just because I don't want Alabama or Ohio State to be in there.
Exactly, and I don't want Oklahoma in there either. But I might have a choice.
At that point,
TCU has to win.
There's 3 teams that you don't want in there. At least 1 or 2.
No, here's the thing: if Alabama gets in, I don't want that, but I'd rather have them in over Oklahoma or Ohio State.
But if they get in, they're going to be a 4 seed, and they're going to be playing Clemson.
And it's a rematch.
Yeah, 3rd.
So it'll be interesting.
3rd game in 3 years.
It'll be interesting, but
it won't be for the championship this time.
And how bad would it suck if you had SEC versus SEC in the championship game?
See, now
it would be. Committee's not going to do that.
It will. You know what would be pretty interesting? If Clemson were to lose, Auburn wins.
Yeah.
They're not going to move Auburn up to number 1 because they're going to have Alabama at 4, and they're not going to make 2 SEC teams play each other. They're going to move Wisconsin up to number 1 so that they play Alabama, give Alabama an easy shot to the champion. What they would believe as an easier shot.
Or they have OU in Alabama.
They want that for a championship.
Do they?
I bet they do. It seems like they always do.
I just don't know, man. Let's just hope that Wisconsin wins. Let's hope that Clemson wins. Let's hope that Auburn wins. Let's hope that Oklahoma wins. In a perfect world, all 4 teams are in, and we don't have to worry about Alabama getting in.
That's true. That's fine.
Let's just have that happen.
Yeah.
But there's so many different scenarios that can get Alabama in. I don't think there's a scenario that gets Oklahoma or Ohio State in unless Wisconsin loses, Clemson loses, Auburn loses, and Oklahoma loses. That's the only way Ohio State gets in. Only way. All 4, the 1 through 4 teams have to lose for Ohio State to get in.
Yeah, but I still don't know if they would because Miami is ahead of them and would have a conference championship win over a number 1 team.
Yeah, but Clemson wouldn't be in.
Clemson wouldn't be in, but Miami probably would.
Yeah, so you put Miami.
Okay.
You put Ohio State. You put Georgia. And then you...
Yeah, I don't... There's too many scenarios.
What would you do? Oh my God. My mind's like gonna blow. But this is fun to talk about. I love it. And we talked about it earlier. You look at the preseason rankings and how big of an impact it has this time of year. And this is why I hate those early season rankings because you look at a body of work. You look at Florida State, number 3 at the beginning of the year. USC, number 5 at the beginning of the year. And look how early they fumbled. Stanford was up there. And Stanford is now not up there. And
they put them at like 12.
But I think that's only because they beat Notre Dame, but they were at like number 20. They jumped 7 spots.
Yeah, that was a pretty big jump.
That was a huge jump, and I think it's more for playoff than anything.
It's more for
playoff implications.
It's more for their game is going to be on ESPN probably, Pac-12 Championship on Friday night. And they want as many people watching saying it's number 10 against number 12
at 10 o'clock at night,
as opposed to number 10 against number 20.
Yeah, so it's gonna be pretty fun to me. I mean, there's teams I don't like. I mean, we don't hide our biases and who we really dislike, but it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. And those rankings at the beginning of the year, I've said it before. Why don't we just wait to have rankings until the very end of the season? So you wait till the end, or halfway through. Sorry, not end of the season.
When they come out with that first playoff ranking,
week 7, week 8. Let's start getting some rankings going. There. But you got to wait till these teams play a couple games. Ohio State ranked as high as they were, and they got whooped by Oklahoma in week 1. That was telling.
I know why they do that. They do it because they want to have 1 against 3, and
a good opening weekend
game. It's a good way to get people to watch their networks.
Very true.
But
watch my network. 2 average guys. Just watch us.
Get our own network.
get our own network. PBS. Let's do it.
You can watch us watch games.
That's exciting. It's pretty fun. We do what we do here. We drink beer and talk football. Anyways, all right. So let's get past college football right now, and not college football, but the playoff. I mean, we could talk about the Memphis Grizzly coach getting fired.
We could.
We could. Let's not do that. Nobody wants to hear about that.
No, Memphis. They're playing the Fighting Frost this week.
Memphis is playing Frosty this weekend. 10-1 versus 11-0, and they're really giving no love to UCF. They still have.
I know. I was going to say something earlier, but I didn't want to go off topic.
They still have them at 14.
Obviously, they're not going to be considered for a playoff position. We get that, but
Joey Galloway.
That doesn't mean that you don't put them at like 8 or 10. Yeah. You don't have to jump them up.
Are they better than a Penn State? Maybe. I mean, so I said to you, and Joey Galloway pointed out to it, if you guys watched the South Florida and Central Florida game, I mean, talk about two teams going at it.
They said it was like, unfortunately, I was in Lincoln, but so I watched some of it. But they said it was like the best game of the college football season.
That game was exciting. You had 3 touchdowns in like a minute 56 or something to end the game, and one of them, and it was a kick return that ended the game. I mean, it was fast paced. You have two teams that are known for, and UCF not so much until this year and a little bit last year, but South Florida is always known for a high powered, fast offense, fast tempo. Yeah. With a pretty good defense.
Over the last few years, they've played Florida State pretty tough when Florida State's been a top 5 team, top 10 team.
And hell yeah, Charlie Strong, man. Look at what he's done in South Florida that he couldn't do in Texas, but he also didn't get the chance at Texas either. Right. And they didn't like him. They like the way he ran the program.
He's going to be able to get better athletes for what he runs down in Florida.
Yeah, and then Central Florida, I mean, Scott Frost has really built a very strong offense, and really, you watch that game, and you can just see his energy on the sidelines, which is exciting. And then you see the players out there, and I mean, they are busting their tail. That was a fun game to watch. I loved it, every second of it. And I think Central Florida could play with any of those top 10 teams in the country. And not only that, I bet they beat them. I think they could.
I mean, whoever they play in their New Year's Six Bowl is going to be a team that's going to be a little disappointed whether they lose their conference championship game, so they get bumped out of the playoff, or just somebody that fell a little bit short with a couple losses. I know that I saw a couple predictions where they maybe were matched up with Penn State, but which actually wouldn't be too bad, I wouldn't think. But, so yeah, I know sometimes it's hard to judge how those games go because you see like a Florida State not make it to the playoff, and so then it seems like they don't care.
Yeah.
So then they lose to, I can't remember who it was that snuck in a couple years ago, but yeah, I think that whoever they do play, they will beat.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun to watch. So if you get a chance to watch UCF this weekend, I highly recommend watching them play Memphis. I think that'll be a good game.
Yeah, it will be, because Memphis is pretty good. I think Memphis' only loss was to Central Florida.
Yeah, one loss. So once again, to beat the team twice is pretty tough to do.
And that was a pretty back and forth game, just like this past weekend.
Yeah. So let's talk about coaching real quick. We'll get to our man real quick in a second, but let's talk about some of the firings that happened. So we saw Jim McElwain at Florida. McElwain's out. Jim Mora at UCLA. Mike Riley at Nebraska. Butch Jones at Tennessee happened a while ago.
Right.
Bielema at Arkansas. We saw Gary Anderson at Oregon State.
Which he left a couple weeks, middle of the season.
Yeah, but that was a
Hugh
while
Freeze
ago.
was gone.
Hugh Freeze was gone a long time ago because of all the strippers and catcalls, whatever the hell he was doing, and I don't know, strip joints. He was crazy, but Hugh Freeze was gone a while ago, so they already had another coach named. So those are just some of the firings that happened in this football season.
Kevin Sumlin did get fired.
Yeah, and Kevin Sumlin. So I didn't have it. That was before it happened. I wrote my notes. So Sumlin got fired after 6 seasons at Texas A&M. I think he saw it coming. They interviewed him after their last game, and they were asking about his job. He goes, I love coaching here, and it's out of my control what they want to do. But I think we've had a solid program, and we have a lot of opportunity moving forward. Right. they thought differently, and I'm not surprised. They've been calling for his head for a while. And something kind of off topic here, but on the same topic, is Gus Malzahn. So Gus Malzahn, they've been calling for his head in Auburn for like the last 3 years.
Right.
And then this year, since the Iron Bowl on the Kick 6, they've been calling for his head. And now this year, boom, now they love him. We love Gus. I mean, it's a kind of an unstable environment where you don't know if they love you, if they like you. They don't love you if you're winning.
I mean, that's kind of how things go.
Yeah, kind of. But
when you go to a national championship and then you have a couple down years,
he hasn't had
people get on you.
But down years, but not terrible. Not 4 and 8 years.
Right.
I mean, he hasn't had when's the last time he had less than 8 wins? I mean,
yeah. I mean, they've probably been 8 and 4.
Yeah, at the least. So, you look at the firings and look at some of the hirings. So. Dan Mullen is leaving Mississippi State and going to Florida.
I always kind of find it funny when these coaches go from one
conference
from
the
the
same
same conference, And SEC, I mean, I get it. SEC West has Alabama, has Auburn, has LSU, has Texas A&M, has Ole Miss, and Mississippi State, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But and the East is easier, I would say.
Yeah.
But and I mean, if they offer you a bunch of money, why not?
Yeah. And, I mean, he's moving from Mississippi to Florida, so, why not?
That's true, too.
So, Dan Mullen, and I got nothing against Dan Mullen. I'm not a Mississippi State fan whatsoever, but Dan Mullen, congrats on the new gig.
It's kind of interesting because, I mean, they've had some decent years, but they also just lost to Ole Miss, who had a pretty bad year.
4-8, I believe. Or 6
and then, then right away he's getting hired in a different place, and Tennessee wanted him.
Yeah,
that was Tennessee's number one too.
Chip Kelly goes to UCLA, so
right.
Florida and Chip Kelly were talking, and so someone asked, why do you think Chip Kelly turned down the Florida job? Well, I don't know if they necessarily made him an offer, but you have to look at a couple different.
They wanted to talk to him, and I don't know if he even did.
Either way,
or he might have turned him away.
He might have turned him away, but why would you turn away Florida and go to UCLA? Well, a couple different thoughts. He's been in the Pac-12 before. He's recruited in the Pac-12 before. He's recruited on the West Coast. And he's been able to get recruits not just on the West Coast, but in the Midwest, the South, and the East. I mean, he can recruit all over.
Right.
And guess what? He's been in the NFL. So he knows, he has contacts, he knows people. He can move his way around the entire country and with his coaches and recruit. And I don't think he's going to have a problem with UCLA recruiting because UCLA is a top school.
Yeah, that was a good hire by them.
It was a great hire. And I look at Florida. They've talked about Scott Frost, talked about Chip Kelly. And those are the top two targets, apparently.
I think so.
So
somebody said Frost may have had some clause in his contract that he couldn't go to another Florida. But who knows?
Yeah, and either way, so you're looking at two coaches who are good at recruiting offensive players, an offense coordinator, and Chip Kelly, who's always had a solid offense. He did at Oregon. You go to Florida, they're not known for an offense. They're known for defense. They're known for crappy quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That they get by because their defense does enough to win games.
I do think it would have been more of a challenge and a lot more work for Chip Kelly to go to Florida than to go to UCLA, who they are known for kind of a better offense. Have quarterbacks. Josh Rosen is going to be the top quarterback out there for the draft this next year, maybe.
And Derby.
And it's LA.
It's LA. So
why
not go to LA? And Lubert, who was the coordinator there under Meyer? Not Chip.
Dan Mullen, I think, was.
Oh, Mullen was? That would make sense.
That's
even though Mullen was quite a bit older, but...
he was offensive coordinator.
That's right. They did say that. Okay. So, I mean, really, it's interesting to see this carousel go around, but you look at Florida and the way they recruit defense first, and they need a quarterback, though. They desperately need a quarterback. That's no doubt.
I'm not surprised that they were going after Chip because he could have gotten, their offense rolling maybe.
Yeah, and maybe that's their game plan is get a coach who can bring in an offense because they know they're going to get defensive guys in Florida. Then we look at Greg Schiano, defense coordinator at Ohio State. This blew up.
I'm sure you probably have seen stuff about it. If you're watching us, you probably are football fans, and you probably have seen what happened on Sunday.
Tennessee was
the biggest shit show that has ever happened in sports.
Talk about not only recruits, but fans, alumni. I mean, people were flipping out about the mention of Schiano coming to Tennessee. Now, here's the thing with Florida and Tennessee. It kind of seems like, hey, we're going to pull a name out of the hat and go after this person next. That's kind of what it seemed like because
it's a little tricky with the early signing period that they're going to be coming out with here. So I know that you don't want to be, looking for a coach and people are snatching up coaches, you know what I mean?
Or snapping up the recruits that maybe want to go there.
That's true, too. Or recruits are leaving because they don't know who the coach is.
Yeah.
And,
so Schiano, people were saying that they don't want him because he's tied to the Sandusky situation at Penn State. I don't know if that's the real reason. I don't look at Schiano's
sounded like he was cleared for that.
But look at his track record as a head coach.
Yeah, I mean...
He went to Rutgers, which was kind of rough to begin with.
They were like the worst program ever, and he had 6 winning seasons in 10 years.
He did. He turned it around.
When they had Ray Rice the one year, they went to a BCS game, I believe. They were pretty good.
But still not a great record.
He went to my Bucks and was god awful.
Awful with the Bucks.
Which that happens. People college go to pro and you suck. That's fine. But then now he's back at Ohio State as a defensive coordinator. Don't know how great that defense is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've been tested too much this year, except by Oklahoma, and then somehow by Iowa they were tested and they couldn't pass the test.
So they basically came out and you even posted it. I sent you that picture and you posted it that they were hiring him and it was okay. And then I was kind of keeping my eye on it because I saw some people post, "There's no way that this is going to happen," and I was like, "Oh man, Tennessee fans are going to be pissed."
It was within minutes.
If this was us at Nebraska, I would probably not be very happy either.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it's funny that it's happening to another program. And
Especially
then, so I just kind of kept following it all day, and like people were coming out of the woodwork. They were like, I mean, there was tweets every like
oh yeah,
millions of tweets.
There was a recruit that said, "I would rather go to any other school rather than Tennessee.
I will go to any school that gives me a scholarship.
Anywhere that gives me a scholarship.
That is not for this coach."
And
it's like, wow.
So it was crazy. Twitter blew up. Facebook blew up.
And there was guys out there like Herb Street and even some other guys that were saying like, "What's the problem?" Like. Mm-hmm. He actually may do a decent job of turning a program around. He's turned programs around before. Now, I would not have believed that if he was coming here. So I would have probably just said the same thing. But I didn't actually think that you could do like a...
But there was like an all-out Tennessee protest on him coming to Tennessee. Okay. And the administration.
It's crazy.
They hadn't even... So the report came out that they were thinking about putting together an offer.
That they were finalizing a deal.
Which is crazy because there was never any... You always see reports about, hey, this coach is going here to talk to this person, this school. Right. That was never even reported, and all of a sudden they're finalizing a deal. Now, did the media jump the gun? Potentially. But either way, the administration pulled that real fast.
Actually, that story breaking at... Sometime it was like between noon and 2.
It was, yeah.
That story breaking lost that guy his job. Lost that guy that job.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't break and the only story is Tennessee hires and welcomes the new coach and he does an interview or does whatever, then they don't have time to do a big sweep and a big protest on campus.
But social media is a powerful weapon right now, and I think it's more because the recruits that were protesting immediately and probably alumni.
There was a couple recruits that decommitted.
Yeah, alumni
immediately.
Alumni and boosters. You have people that are giving money to the program.
And state representatives that were tweeting.
Bye.
And some people in the White House that were Tennessee alums. It was just incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
So Derby, Peyton Manning. So I actually said Peyton Manning, why don't they go after him as a head coach? I think Peyton Manning would actually be a good coach. He knows the game. He knows the offense. He would have to have a strong core of assistants to help with wide receivers and to help with... Now, he can obviously help with wide receivers too, but with defense... Jason Witten, once again, you're pulling names out of a hat.
And
Jason Witten's name came out of a hat because he used to play there.
He denied, or not denied, but he said that he was not going to be taking the
He said his feet are planted in Dallas. He ain't going anywhere. The guy wants to play till he dies, and sometimes he looks like he's barely moving out on the field because he catches the ball and gets hit right away. He doesn't even get yards after catch. But I love the guy, Jason Witten, but not going to Tennessee, and that's a good move on his part. I don't think he's ready for that next step.
Right.
So really interesting there. So the Tennessee thing is still crazy. Now, a name came out today, sticking on Tennessee. Mullet Man, I posted this earlier.
Yeah.
Mike Van Gundy from Oklahoma State. Now, his name wasn't even on the board until today.
Yeah, and I hope he doesn't leave. He's built a pretty good program at Oklahoma State. I like Oklahoma State.
And they love the mullet.
And I want there to be no one good available for Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
You did this to yourself. Like, you know what I mean? I hope that they have to hire some 1AA coach or something.
Well, they fired Butch so long ago, and it's like they've just been waiting to start looking for coaches until last second.
I know.
And now...
And it is a first-year AD, and they're saying that they may be pulling the plug on him.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the way things have gone for them, and you have to look at that, but... I mean, you look at the other coaches on the board for potential hires that are still coaching their teams and some that aren't coaching. So you look at Les Miles, you look at Matt Campbell, Iowa State. They just locked him down.
Yeah,
but
he's not going anywhere.
But could he have been a target early on?
That's why they
were having a solid season.
That's why Iowa State locked him down. He had a big buyout. It was like $9.5 million, so that was going to be pretty tough. But somebody like Tennessee or Nebraska, I could have seen some
potentially would have done
that.
But Iowa State very smart locking him down. Mike Leach, his name's been out there since Moose came to Nebraska. Will he stay at Washington State? Not necessarily come to Nebraska, but is he going to stay at Washington State?
That would be interesting if he were to end up at Tennessee. I don't know what kind of fit he would have in the SEC, but
I mean, he may be good at giving marriage advice, but when you're talking about brother and sister marrying each other, I mean, does he really want to give advice on that in Tennessee?
Right. I mean, he is pretty good. He's just trying to get more money out of Oklahoma State. Yeah.
I bet he is.
I mean,
as we all know, probably deserves it.
He probably does. As we all know, you can say, "Oh no, so and so would never do that," but then you get offered the paycheck, and you say, "Absolutely."
Well, when you look at Big 12 money, you look at SEC money.
That's true.
Tennessee needs someone who's going to help that program out, and if they want to offer that money to Gundy, they're going to do it.
That's true.
And Gundy's going to say, "Hey, Tennessee's going to offer me this. What do you got?"
Yeah.
I want to stay here, but you get money talks. Yeah. Is what he's going to say.
Yeah.
So Les Miles, once again, Les Miles isn't coaching. He hasn't been. But was he a good coach? He had a hell of a lot of winning seasons at LSU. Sure. But is he still a prospect for some teams? Potentially. I'm not taking his name off the board. I think he is still a potential to go somewhere. Especially because we're going to see more people get fired.
Especially if some of these teams, they don't get their first choice, they don't get their second choice, they don't get their top 5 choices, and they want, they don't want to just grab anybody.
Yeah.
They could go to somebody that has had some decent, experience.
Yeah. Mentioned Gus Malzahn at Auburn. I didn't know he was thinking about leaving. But you look at the love-hate relationship he's had over the past few years with Auburn. There was potential after last season that they were going to fire him. And then he comes back this year, and they have a hell of a good year. So you have to look at the morale of the coach and how he feels in his setting with not only the fans, but with the AD and with the rest of the boosters. They've been up and down on him about, hey, we're going to potentially fire you depending on how you do this year. That's not comfortable. So he potentially could still be on the hot seat to go somewhere.
Okay.
Not to get fired, but to go somewhere else who's going to offer him money and maybe have some loyalty. Which, talking about loyalty, we'll talk about Nebraska in a second anyways. But Willie Taggart, Clemson offense coordinator, he's been a name for the past few years. Clemson's had some solid offenses, but he turns down interviews. He doesn't want an offense coordinator job or a head coaching job. So it kind of makes me wonder, is there a reason why? Does he just love being in Clemson? I don't know. I think it's more he loves being in Clemson and loves coaching with Dabo. Is probably why he doesn't want to leave. So we'll get to that in a second about Frost.
We'll talk about Frost in a little bit.
Most of his staff. Yeah, actually, I got a funny story about that, about Central Florida and their staff. So we'll talk about that in a second, Pootie. But then we talked about Mike Gundy. Gary Patterson's been a name out there as well. But
I don't know. Sounds like he's not wanting to leave.
I don't. Why would he? Right. He's got a great thing at TCU.
Yeah.
And they still have a lot of young guys out there that can do a lot of good things for that team in the upcoming years. You talk about playing in the Big 12 championship this year. Gary Patterson wants to go to the playoff.
Yeah.
He wants to. And if he wants to, he's going to stay at TCU for now, and he's going to build them up and get there. That's what he wants to do.
I think so.
Then Lane Kiffin, FAU. So, yeah, they're 9-3 this year. It is Florida Atlantic. Lane Kiffin has not been able to prove himself as a top 5 program as a head coach.
Right.
He was awful at Tennessee, got fired from there. He was awful at USC, got fired from there. And then he goes to Alabama. All I'll say is this great offense coordinator. Now he goes to FAU, and everyone's dying over him being this great head coach. I think he adopted the FAU team. I don't know what they did last year, but yeah, he's having a good year. But will he be able to do the same thing at a Tennessee or a Power 5 school? I don't think so. I don't think the guy's very well liked.
I don't. Yeah.
I don't think he is, and so I don't know how he would do with recruits. I don't think he's very personable. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So a lot of teams out there.
Well, and I think there are. Sorry to cut you off. There are a couple other coaches that.
The Memphis coach is definitely on the hot seat to potentially get a good offer somewhere.
Yes, not really the hot seat, as in like a hot coach.
Yeah, hot coach.
Justin Fuente, the coach at Virginia Tech.
Yep, La Tech. Yep.
He's definitely up there. So I mean, there's still
Now,
a few.
Quick question: Pat Narduzzi. Is he on anyone's radar?
I don't know. That's a good question too.
I mean,
they're 5-7.
He hasn't had great seasons with Pitt, but they've had some fantastic wins, and I think he's a great coach.
I think it might just be he just must do something to pump his players up for big games. Or prepare very well for good games, but you gotta do it all the time.
Maybe he took some messages with Hugh Freeze, little escort services, and hey, let's go play, guys. If you win this one, we're having some fun. So, Pooty, let's get to your question. So, there's no if about it, about Scott Frost. I'm telling you. We reported it like a month ago on Two Average Guys that Scott Frost is coming to Nebraska. 7 years, $6 million a year. So he's getting $42 million coming to Nebraska.
We'll see. We'll see Sunday morning.
We will see Sunday morning. I'm not thinking Sunday morning. I'm thinking Sunday afternoon.
Or whatever. You know what I mean. Sunday.
Oh yeah, so very good. Derby.
Oh, I had forgot to write that down.
So we'll touch base on that.
Arizona State had fired their coach as well.
So Arizona State fired their coach, Herm Edwards. Everyone knows who Herm Edwards is. If you don't, then you need to start watching more football and more TV.
He was interviewing for that.
Apparently he's interviewing for the Arizona State job. I mean, who wouldn't want Herm Edwards as a coach? Yeah. I love the guy. I think he still has a head coach in him, and I think he'd be good for any college program. Because not only does he have passion for the game, but he knows his shit. Mm-hmm. He's one of those guys that I think would be fun, and he could really get Arizona State as a Pac-12 team that actually is worth a damn.
Yeah.
Again, for Arizona State. So that'd be fun to see, Derby. I appreciate you mentioning that. So there's no if about Frost.
Okay.
It's a done deal. Chris Fowler already said done deal.
He did say done deal.
He did. And so at multiple reports.
Right.
Also, about Central Florida and their staff, Pooty. Two Average Guys said it's a done deal a long time ago. But let's look at their staff. So one thing that I really hope for Nebraska is Keith Williams. I really think if Scott Frost is paying attention to anything going on in Nebraska, which he may or may not be, but if he is, he's looking at the wide receivers and how they've talked so far about their coach.
Yeah,
and then what Williams has done for him. Morgan Jr., Tyjon Lindsey, Spielman, all these guys are out there talking. That could be damaging to the Husker wide receiver core, but I think there's still a chance for Williams to get hired on. He's not out of the picture.
You know, if you would want to.
If
Scott would want him to. There's a lot of different
things. And the AD, the administration. Would they allow Frost? But he might say, hey, if you want me, you're going to let me bring him back. A lot of things can go into that. But what I read up on a couple different times, this was actually on a radio station in Florida as well. The guys on the radio station said, hey, we heard reports from guys that are in the Central Florida organization, front office. They were in the locker room, and they were down in the trenches with the football team where they reside. And they're like, all the coaches cleared out their desk. Like, they took their final notes. You can see on their board, they had final notes on their board. Their desks were cleaned out. I don't know if it was all the coaches, but there are reports that their desks were cleaned out. Not only are they prepared for that bowl game, or for their championship game, but they're prepared to move. They're prepared to leave and come to Nebraska. I'm telling you right now, it is a done deal. one of Frost's assistants by
nice,
House
Pat.
of Lincoln. Pat, no, it is, I don't know you, Pat, but very good.
He's one of Jason and Jason's friends.
Okay, the Jason's
friends.
So coincidence? No, I don't think it is. And I also heard, shit goes around like wildfire. When it comes to coaching.
That's what's hard. I mean,
but there's a report that I think you might have told me this, or it might have been Pooty, that Scott Frost's wife just sent some information, all her documents and all her health paperwork over to an OBGYN here in Lincoln. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, so I think it was Pooty told me that. So I find those kind of stories are funny and compelling. Sure, you get some news that goes out there and you don't really believe it. But this Frost stuff's been going on for a while. We reported it a long time ago because I had someone reported it.
But
I reported it to you and Two Average Guys. We're a team here. We reported that Scott Frost 7 years, $6 million a year. And now the tables are turning. They're spinning faster and faster and faster. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to not only Moose talk this past,
Moose was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. If you get a chance, listen to his press conference.
He's awesome.
Also, listen to Scott Frost's press conference this last week as well on Sunday after their win.
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. Yeah, sure. It was Monday. So, and they asked him about the Nebraska job, and they talked to him Sunday as well. But they asked him about the Nebraska job. They've asked him about coaching UCF and what it means to him. And they are. I told somebody that Moose was dodging questions like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing a fantastic job. He didn't get hit once. But the questions were great. And I thought they were very direct. And they asked him about meeting him in Philly after they played Toledo. Who's up in Philly that UCF played?
Well,
Temple. They played Temple.
Yeah.
At Temple, and they asked Bill Moose, like, "Hey, we heard that you talked to Scott Frost when they were in Philly playing Temple." And he kind of dodged the question. He said, "I can tell you one thing though, Philly does have some good Philly sandwiches." So he dodged the question, but he kind of answered the question at the same time. Frost has open checkbook. He'll bring the best he can get. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
So since he has coaches in Washington, Alabama, he can bring. Oh, listen, there's nobody more probably in the country that wants to see Nebraska get back to being Nebraska. And Bill Moose said it best. He wants Nebraska to be Nebraska.
Yeah.
He wants that program to get back to where it was. And Scott Frost is probably the number one guy for the job because he wants a national championship. He wants a chance at it. He wants to go to his alma mater. He wants to do it with that team. How cool would it be to not only play on the team that wins the championship, but then coach the team that wins the national championship? I mean, he's gonna have high goals going in.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard a lot of people, I've seen a lot of things say, that's not necessarily his best fit. He could, Florida could have been better here and there, whatever. But what do you think? I mean, I know the question now is, I know that this does seem like it is going to happen. Is that the best thing that can happen? Because I think it is. I know Jason keeps posting, be careful what you wish for. For one, like we've said, that's not necessarily what we wished for, although now that is the case, I think it is best case scenario. He is the only one that we can bring in here and give plenty of time to build the program up. I know we're going to have to spend money on him, and if we have him for 5 to 7 years, and during that time, you can't keep paying somebody $6 million a year without the results.
You look at available coaches, you look at, and we've done the right thing because, like I said, I think this has been a done deal for a while. We've done the right thing because they've done the research, and Moose, right when he came in, bam, he's hitting the ground running. There's no way he wasn't looking for a coach right away.
Right. There's
no way he told Riley that, hey, you're going to keep your job at the end of the year. I don't think it was a surprise to Riley that he was losing his job.
No.
There's no way it was. And I think Moose was probably up front. The guy seems like an honest guy just from listening to him talk.
Yeah, for sure.
But here's the thing. You have to take into account, yes, Scott Frost, sure. Be careful what you wish for. You talking about Moose? Oh, Roos. Okay.
Oh. Either way.
So, and I don't know if he played Nebraska. That's a good question.
Yeah. One thing I would say is, because I talked to one of my other cousins at Thanksgiving and said, I could see us get, A&M's going to fire someone, and I could see us getting him. And I said, why do we want to hire a coach that got fired?
Yeah.
No, we need a coach that's hot right now.
And a successful coach.
Up and coming, young.
Not 70 years old.
Not 62 years old. Because he made mention of a couple other ones, and no.
But listen, real quick, I don't know if you remember, I heard this more than once after we hired Mike Riley. Everyone was kind of suspect on why the hell did we just hire this guy who's 62 years old,
right?
And he didn't have a good track record at Oregon State, and multiple people, and I had the thought myself is, we are bringing on this older gentleman to coach the team until Scott Frost is ready to take a head coaching position.
And I don't know if I said it to you or if I said it to somebody else. I said, actually, the Mike Riley hire could have been about one of the best things we did. we did, depending on how things do end up, because it did. I know some people wanted us to hire Frost at that time.
Yeah. And what did he say?
I think it probably would have been a mistake.
But what did he say? I'm not ready.
Right.
He knew it at that point. He was not ready for a head coaching job at a Power 5 Nebraska with the expectations. He wasn't ready for it. Guess what? He's proven himself at UCF that he can be a damn good head coach.
Right. And
he's proven himself that he can recruit. They got some good young players in UCF, and he's recruited them. He's going to bring probably some of those guys with him to Nebraska. They're going to decommit, and he's going to want them to come to Nebraska. He's going to be able to recruit nationwide.
And I think it ended up being fine that we got rid of Eichhorst and we got Moose. Moose is way better.
Yeah, but take a look at what the national attention that Frost has got, not because of all the Nebraska talk, but because of Central Florida. Because of what they've done this year. He's getting attention nationally.
Yeah.
Mike Riley didn't get that attention at Oregon State before we hired him.
And the good thing is, Scott was on the West Coast. He was down south. So now he's got connections everywhere. I know Riley had a bunch of connections.
He played in New York. I mean,
yeah, he played for Belichick and Parcells. He won a championship with Osborne.
Everybody loves the guy.
He's been all over the place.
Yeah,
and he should be able to, I think, recruit people from anywhere.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be awesome.
And so anybody that had any doubt about Scott Frost being hired, if you watch the Bill Moose interview, one thing that right away caught my attention, they asked him about what do you see as I think they mentioned about the offense. Like, what do you see for Nebraska? What do you want to see out of Nebraska this next year from an offensive standpoint? And one of the first things he mentioned was a dual threat quarterback. He mentioned a quarterback that can get out of the pocket and run the ball. He also mentioned our run game. He wants to get back to the old Nebraska. He even mentioned the option, which a lot of people say the option is dead. I'm calling BS. If you get a quarterback, you get a team who can run it right, you can do it against just about anybody.
And you know what?
You just don't do it against on the short side. Unless you're the old 1990s Nebraska, you can do that.
I hate the short side.
Unless we got a Mon Green on our team.
But the thing with that is, you don't have to run it as your offense 100% of the time. What you do is you have a set section of your playbook that has those plays that you can run at any point in time and throw teams off.
But he said he wants it balanced. He's like, I want a balanced offense, but also an offense that can run the ball. They can run the option. They can run a bootleg. They can run a QB draw. I mean, they can do things that Nebraska used to do. He wants to get back to the 1990s Nebraska style of offense, which is Scott Frost. When he started talking about that, you look at guys like Tanner Lee. So the questions come out a couple times a day. Had a couple of people ask me on the page about Tanner Lee. So what do I think he's going to do? I think Tanner Lee is gone. I think Tanner Lee he explained the spread offense.
Exactly.
Yeah. Drew, I'm glad you noticed that. That is exactly what he does.
Read speed option, yes.
And so I'm glad you noticed that too, and that's exactly what I noticed. But you have to look at the big picture here and what we can do with Nebraska going back to our olden days and what Scott Frost can bring to the table.
So back to your point that you were making before that, what about Tanner?
Tanner Lee. So Tanner Lee, he is a pocket passer. Guess who else is a pocket passer? Our backup, Patty O'Brien.
Who's not really the backup. They just had him as backup because the backup, we didn't want to burn his red shirt.
Well, technically, yeah. So, Jebbia, who Adam Carricker talked about last weekend on the show as well, because we asked him about the offense in the future, and he mentioned Scott Frost and what Jebbia can bring to the floor, and he agreed with us too that if Tanner Lee or if Scott Frost comes in, which now we know he is, expect Tanner Lee to go to the draft. Not because he is a pro style, not because he's a pro quarterback, pro style, yes. But is he good enough? No. I mean, he doesn't have the arm strength. He doesn't have the accuracy. Can they build him to be maybe a Cleveland Browns quarterback? Maybe.
The thing is, he technically could grad transfer somewhere else.
But why would he want to transfer again?
For one, right, why would you want to transfer again? And also, he doesn't graduate until like summer, so he wouldn't be able to go through spring ball.
And if anybody watched him play this year for Nebraska, no one's going to want to take him. He threw like 50 interceptions. So
I mean, he's not going to get drafted.
No, he won't get drafted. He might.
I did see some people say that he would, and I know Dick was commenting.
Yeah.
He was like, if Channerly's a
quarterback,
draft
I'm a jet pilot,
which is hilarious.
Yeah. I do anticipate him going, but that means Patty O'Brien will now be the backup because if you want to spread offense where you're incorporating the run, Patty O'Brien is also a pocket passer. He can be around the ball.
And I mean, if we have to have him as backup, if he either doesn't transfer or depending on what happens.
Yeah.
Because I think we may have a quarterback coming in, and I don't know that we'd really want to burn a red shirt as have two freshman quarterbacks.
We'll play it by ear. Yeah.
So, and I did see a thing today that said Penn State coach Franklin was in Council Bluffs today offering dual threat Lewis Central quarterback. That's supposed to be pretty good.
Huh.
They said he's gotten offers from Nebraska, Iowa, a bunch of Midwest.
He's in the Midwest, Big Ten.
And that, we may end up losing him, but if we get Frost in, I think that could be a different story.
And we've had a couple recruits that have opened up their offer table to other schools that are potentially interested. And
if you bring Frost in, I mean,
a couple of them,
why wouldn't you want to come here?
Well, a couple of them have connections with current players on the team, like Tyjon Lindsey and Spielman. They have connections on the team. I see them changing their mind if we bring in Frost, because guess who Frost is going to reach out to right away? Current recruits. Stanley, Spielman, Lindsey. He's going to reach out to the guys that are kind of feeling down and kind of sad about Mike Riley no longer being a coach. I get it.
He was a great
guy.
He was great. I played for coaches that I loved, and if they would have gotten let go, I would have been upset. However, the coaches that I played for were successful, not 4-8.
Yeah.
And so you have to understand. I know Stanley even said it, that it's a business, so maybe he needs to make a business decision.
He could go pro.
What? Grow up, bro. You could go pro. That's fine.
He might.
That's fine. I think though, if you were to stay for one more year with Frost,
your draft stock
would absolutely kill it.
Your draft stock would be huge.
So, that'll be interesting to see.
A lot of things. So, I think it's going to get Frosty very soon. I'm anticipating Sunday. I don't think it's going to be in the morning. I think we might hear something early afternoon.
Okay.
So, considering not playing at home, they have to travel. So, they're going to be on the road at a championship game. If they win, especially, you got to let them celebrate. It's going to be a late night. They're going to have some fun.
Could be Sunday evening. And we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do, because I think the selection show is on Sunday.
We'll do a show Sunday, yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
So we will be back on Sunday. And so many things are going to happen this weekend, and I'm excited. All I'm doing Saturday is watching football. I hope my kid naps a couple times, so I'm pumped, though. I'm really pumped for these championship games. See how it plays out. Hopefully we get a Wisconsin win. Hopefully we get a Clemson win. Hopefully we get an Auburn win. And hopefully we get an OU win, as much as I hate to say that, but I'd rather that happen than Bama get in. I kind of just
want it to be, I mean, it's not going to be 4 different teams, but I just want it to be 2 different teams in the championship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We've had the same 2 teams a couple years in a row, and I don't want them to win.
Yeah. So a lot of things are still going to happen this weekend. If everything goes like the way we want it, then there won't be any surprises. The top 4 that are there now are going to stay the top 4, and boom, you got your playoff. They might switch spots a little bit, but we got our top 4.
That is one thing that will be interesting to see, kind of how they do it. If 2 SEC teams do somehow slide in there, they're probably not going to have them playing each other.
That's one thing that I'm thinking, is that they won't put Bama in there, only because who the hell wants to see? The ratings would go down dramatically. You're talking about ratings on TV. ESPN has a play in that. Who the hell wants to see 2 SEC teams play each other?
That's
not only
true.
in a playoff, but in a championship
That's
game.
True.
Nobody wants to see that.
But I can see them going Alabama at the number 4 spot, having to play whoever ends up being number 1.
Or they'll just want to burn Saban and watch him cry over his team deserving a chance. So we'll see. A lot can happen.
That's
so
for sure.
That's all we got today, guys. Thanks for commenting. For those of you who commented, for those of you who are still watching, appreciate you. We got some good views today. Keep sharing, keep liking, ask us questions. I mean, we are open to anything. We are no experts. We are just 2 average guys who enjoy college football. So we appreciate you.
We're kind of experts.
Well, we sometimes think we are, yeah. But Frost is coming to town. just enjoy it, especially around Christmas time. How can you not enjoy Frost coming to town?
Yes.
He ain't Saint Nick, but he's close enough. So,
I did see something funny. One quick note.
is it the winter is coming meme that Cornhusker Nation posted?
No. So, if you drive I-80 west between Omaha and Lincoln, there's this, about halfway, there's a big red barn on the side of the road, and the guy has a big white flag that says Trump, and the Trump in red letters. Guy changed it to Frost. Somebody posted it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. I mean, they're yeah, people are going on. I think Cornhusker. I think Husker Hounds has something outside their store saying
They got the Frost 18,
sign up
Make
there.
Nebraska Great Again t-shirts.
Yeah, I mean,
Those are cool.
I'm not a Trump fan, so
No, I mean, I'm not either, but I just
don't-
think that the shirt's cool.
not really a fan of it.
Make Nebraska Great Again.
that is very, very true. So once again, thanks for joining in. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. We had, I think, an all-time high for views last week after our Adam Carricker interview.
Let's see if we can get... No.
We are trying to get some other interviews lined up. If you guys ever want to be on the show, I mean, we got beer, and we're in my basement, not my mom's basement, and so we'll give you a tour of the
place to
yeah. We can make some room and do a little wider view, but or we can just be like we're in the booth and kind of close to each other.
Close. That's
But really, I mean, we enjoy this. We enjoy you guys chiming in. So once again, thank you. We'll be back on Sunday. After the championship game, Sunday evening, once they come out with their final rankings. We'll talk about the games. I mean, we saw some good games this last week. We didn't really talk too much about them, but no need to. You guys should know what's going on if you're watching the show. Thanks for joining in. I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
We're two average guys. Enjoy your evening, and as always, go Big Red.
Have a great.
That was the saddest of all. 27? Shit.